welcome back, everyone, both you here in the Egg and those of you joining us online. I hope you enjoyed the parallel sessions. We're going to find out now in our closing session what we learned this afternoon with our SRB board members. So let me invite them to the stage. Vice Chair Jan Reinder de Carpentier, board members Sebastiana Laviola, Pedro Machado, Jesus Serena, and Tuia Tawas. And our chair, yes, a little sprinkling of And our chair, Dominique, is actually going to be the moderator for this session. So over to you, Dominique.
Thank you very much, and thank you to be still here with us after this long day. As you've seen, we've started this new setup with different panels, and here that's the right moment to do two things. The first thing is to come back to the lessons we've learned from these panels, and this is exactly what we will do in a minute. But there's another lesson, is to show you the permanent board members of the SRB just in front of you, all together, working as a team for, let's say, building again this famous resolvability and this resilience we are working on day after day. So I cannot invite all the staff members of the SRB to join us on the stage, but we are much more than 6. But at the minimum, you have the 6 permanent board members in front of you, and I think it's a good occasion to show you that we are all working for the same goals. So with that, let me start to come back to the different, let's say, panels, and there was one on MREL, and I would like to ask you, Sebastiano, to come back to this MREL session you moderated, and could you please share with us, with all of us, including those online, the main conclusion from these discussions?
Yes. Thank you, Dominique, and thank you to all the panelists. I have taken the opportunity during the break to put it here in my mobile. So the first takeaway, it is that building up MREL from the industry, it has been a demanding journey. We have now reached a steady state, and now it is more improving at the margin, the system, than that is working already. As concerns our proposal to reflect on optionality and combination of tools, all agreed that optionality is key, which clearly needs preparatory work and options that are fully actionable. This was particularly stressed by the industry, and therefore important to leverage on the work banks have already done in recovery and resolution planning, but this has to be done also in cooperation with the supervisors. For market confidence and building confidence in a crisis, another aspect of our consultation, communication is very important. The first element, however, is liquidity. That's to say, communication on adequacy of liquidity. After this comes capital, particularly to ensure the viability of the business model, and of course, adequate communication to investors and depositors on the future of the business model. However, in these strategies, to find buyers, we need a well-integrated banking market. And here, we have still probably something to do, because if we have only domestic investors as potential buyers, clearly this restricts the area of possibilities, and this is a call for completing the reforms of which we have been, which we have heard talking about this morning. On the complexity of MREL and future revisions, well, here it has been said that simplification is an important goal to foster consistency between the supervisory resolution framework. In particular, the EBF asks for a framework which is simpler, more efficient, equally robust, and particularly mentioned as examples the complexity of the macroprudential buffer, mentioned also a document, a communication from the Commission, from FISMA, regarding the macroprudential buffer, the issue of usability without increasing, however, the size of the buffer, and the complexity of MDA and M MDA. Finally, I think it was agreed by everybody that in order to have some impact on calibration of MREL down the road, we have to first work on credible and feasible combination of tools. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastiano. I was attending this panel, and if I may, I would add one or two elements listening to the debate. What struck me was essentially twofold. The recognition that MREL is still something which is needed, and I think it's acknowledged by everybody, as you said, with some other topics which are even more relevant depending on the type of crisis, liquidity, etc. But still, MREL is something which matters at the moment of a crisis. So it should be obviously ready ex ante. But what we've discussed longly is many other things than MREL in itself. That's to say, quantity, quality, location, and transition period. For those who started studying this story of MREL a long time ago, like me, you remember perhaps that we spent hours and hours and hours, weeks and months and years and perhaps centuries discussing always the same topics: quantity, quality, location, transition period. More or less all these things are now in place, and what we've said already this morning, since this morning, is that in reality the build-up of this MREL stack is more or less in place now, and that's why the debate was largely driven by other consideration. Indeed, operationalization, readiness, capacity to check what Sofia Toscano called the qualitative side of the things. That's to say, the capacity to implement at the right moment, the right decision, etc., etc. And this is exactly what we want to do via this strategy. The second element, which was mentioned by a number of, perhaps not a number, but I noted this one because I think it's important. To those who think that the journey is done, the answer was clearly by yes and no. Yes, we've built this first element. Let me remember that as a mean, we have now 27% of risk-weighted assets as MREL, but no, because things are changing, and first from, let's say, the resolution side, and the combination of tools, if it is developed, could bring a new way of thinking the calibration of MREL in due time, once we've taken all the steps for that. So this is one. But two, the rest of the regulatory landscape is evolving. You've mentioned this macro-prudential reform, but there's also the Basel III one, which is coming, and there will be an impact on the calibration of MREL, let's say mechanical impact, but we need also to take this into account. So the MREL calibration is also depending on, let's say, not only internal factors we are working on, but also external factors which can have an impact. And I think that means that certainly in the coming conferences we'll be able to continue to have some panels on the MREL policy, definitely. Let me go to now another session, which was about the new and emerging risks and how we can tackle them. So it was for you, Jan Reinder, to moderate this panel. So could you tell us what you took from the discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Dominique, and happy to do so. Difficult, I would say, to summarize such a discussion, but some highlights perhaps from my side. I think, of course, there was a discussion around the things that were also discussed this morning: the speed of information flow, the need for rapid action, and thorough and coordinated communication. But also something like the war on talents, so where we all see that, to mitigate new risks, we're talking very much about digitalization, cyber attacks, but also other risks where there is a need to find the right experts, and banks, financial institutions, but supervisors are all fishing in the same pool. which is posing a risk on itself, and also the need to train staff basically to become experts in digitalization and related topics. Another element that I found very interesting was this, what was called so-called a polycrisis situation that we see emerging more often. What does that mean? We had Professor Singh of Warwick University explaining, saying risks are coming more and more together. So if you think about an environmental risk, for example, and a natural disaster, sometimes you see it combined with an increased level of cyber attacks, because those behind those cyber attacks are taking the advantage of a natural disorder to basically try to influence the news and create more chaos at the same time. So these kind of things can come together and start to enforce each other, these risks, which I found a very interesting but also very worrisome situation. Perhaps, if I think out loud, the last thing that I could share with you is, what was called a need to control social media. So this morning there was very much this conclusion, like we cannot control social media, but still I think in this panel there was definitely someone who was saying, but you need, if you are in a deep financial crisis, you will have to find ways up front to have understanding with platforms of social media to make sure that this information is telling the truth and there is no so much opportunity for fake news to be spread around. I'm not sure that this is the answer. I'm also not sure whether and how we get there exactly, but I think it was a very interesting view that was shared during our session. So let me stop here. Thank you, Dominique.
Thank you, Jan Reinder. Definitely fascinating remarks. But Jesus, you were attending also this panel. So perhaps any other comments and reactions from your side?
Thank you very much, Dominique. To be very frank, I got scared because there was cyber attacks, ransomware, disruption, social disruption. So I got a bit afraid. So I think that the panel did a very good job in raising awareness of these emerging risks that are really material. But fortunately, our 3 R's come to defend us or to protect us. One is risk management. It's not exactly the one we have somewhat of the conference, but it was risk management, the importance of risk management on the side of the banks. The second was recovery, which is close to our operational risk continuity. And finally, it was resilience that is in our title. So I think that overall we have a long way to cover, but still we have the tools and the plan to tackle this issue. There was, Jan has mentioned, just to show that we listen to the industry, in particular to Axel, the 3 Ps this morning. Jan has mentioned 1 P that I was going to mention, polycrisis. But the other is a plea that I've heard in the session for simplified reporting and unified reporting. And I think that this is not on our hands, but it's something probably that merits some reflection from our side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jesus. A lot of food for thought, definitely. Let me go to the third panel, which was about testing, making resolution plan operational. So this is at the very core of the new strategy, as we presented it this morning. And so, Pedro, you were chairing this panel. So could you tell us the way the discussion went during this panel?
Sure. Thank you very much, Dominique. I think it was a very rich panel in terms of the discussion. There was a very interesting mix, both in terms of experience and also expertise from a banking union bank, a bank outside the bank of the European Union, but with an important subsidiary at the banking union, and representatives both from the one from the EBA and the other from the Central Bank of Ireland as an NRA. One of the main features that was stressed was precisely that we are not, as you said at the very beginning of this conference, on testing and operationalization. This is an evolution and not a revolution, in the sense that we are going to build up also on the experience thus far gathered, thus far advanced by banks in terms of testing. So what clearly was one of the main sort of drivers, but also wish list coming from the industry, is predictability, and in that regard the commitment is laid at the level of the multi-annual program. So there is a commitment that we are going to adopt a multi-annual program which will clearly mark the path towards testing and operationalization to reach the end stage, the desired stage in terms of readiness by banks. So in that regard, this was very much appreciated in the sense of getting that predictability, which is, but we had also 3 Ps. So we had this morning 3 Ps, we had additional 3 Ps which are on prioritization, patience, and profitability. Profitability was an interesting area of discussion because it delves into the sort of continuum driver for the industry. What they would like to see is that also the investments that are done on business as usual might also be leveraged for resolution. And in that regard, I think it's sort of one of the takeaways that we get from this panel, which is interesting to sort of digest and reflect upon. But it was also on the discussion in this panel, much emphasis was also put on the dry runs that are led by the SRB, and on that to leverage precisely also on the experience that we have thus far gathered, but also that the NRAs have also done at the basis of with LSIs. And in that regard, this sort of experience going forward, there was clearly the sort of ambition, or at least it was much discussed, that we should deepen a bit the footprint, not only on those dry runs, but on the complexity of the dry runs to bring it closer to real life cases that we might be facing. So in that regard, I think that was clear. And then I think one interesting aspect that is also common to a bank sitting outside the European, headquartered outside the European Union, but also from the perspective of the EBA, is a certain asymmetry that might exist in terms of the testing progress across the board, especially for the cross-border groups. And that is something that we should clearly pay attention to. In that regard, that we keep an eye that testing is not very much advanced at the level of the banking union part and less advanced in other parts. And so that sort of concern should clearly be underlying going forward. So I think all in all, this was the sort of main drivers, main key takeaways, although the discussion, as you might imagine, was much more richer than I can even sort of summarize in this brief minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Very rich discussion, apparently. Tuija, you were attending this panel. Do you share the view that it was really an interesting and rich panel and a rich conversation?
Yes. Yes. It was interesting, and I can try to complement something what was already said on what was said by Pedro. I think on this topic we need to understand, of course, that we are not starting from scratch. So banks have many years' experience of organizing, for example, bail-in dry runs. But during next years, we will organize, and banks will organize, more complex tests with different kind of scenarios, and test also transfer strategies to ensure the flexibility of our toolkit. And one panelist was mentioning that they are planning to test also the internal governance arrangements in the bank, and also test communication, which is has been stressed in this conference as a very important topic. So testing is an important element of increasing our preparedness, and one important message which we got, I think, Pedro, was that at the SRB we need to remember to use the synergies from different kind of tests what banks are requested to do. Also because of supervisory authorities are requesting them to do a lot of tests, for example, on operational resilience. So this was a clear message to SRB.
Okay, so as you see, the number of topics we've tried to address via these panels and the number of ideas we've collected are extremely high. And this is exactly what will charter our next month and our common strategy. We will pick up these ideas and look at them seriously to embed the lessons and the potential avenues for developing more our approaches for a better resolvability, definitely. So thank you for these panels, which are bringing us so much food for thought. Perhaps now, before closing this conference, perhaps it would be good to think about what we've discussed all along this day, and the best thing to do would be perhaps to reorganize a quick tour de table, if I may say so. There is no table, but okay. About your first let's say, feelings, reactions about what was discussed, what was introduced, presented, defended. I think it would be interesting to know what you've thought about the content of this conference. Tuija, may I start with you to give us your first feelings?
Thank you, Dominic. Yeah, I think for me and for the whole SRB board, this conference has been very helpful. As it marks the start of the new phase of SRB, where we focus more on testing and more on operational crisis management capabilities. And I also enjoyed this conference because we focused on future, on long-term issues and new challenges. And for me, after this conference, I think it's clear that even clearer than before, that closer cooperation between authorities and banking sector is needed even more than before. And if we really want to make progress, and I'm pretty sure we all want to make progress, so we need to think about the future as an iterative common learning process where we test and then we draft processes, analyze, and then we test again, etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very good conclusion, I think. Stronger cooperation, that's an interesting one, definitely. Sebastiano, for you, any additional ideas?
In my view, the morning was very, very rich, and I think I found myself in this, not only in the comments and reaction from the, let's say, the public side, from the institution side, but also on various statements that, by the way, confirmed what comes as a feeling from the institutions. I believe that, this resolution framework, if I may say so, that, as you said, Dominique, is still relatively young with respect to other framework existing since many years. It is now, I believe, quite well understood, and although complex, it is accepted, and I think that the route, the path that done until now, where we are, as you said, that has been declared in the intention of the SRB to move from preparation and to arrive at a certain steady state from the initial stages to now move from planning, so shift from planning to testing, to operationalization of the tools, to eventually reconsider what new elements these improvements might also build to the revision of the MREL policy, plus the other aspects that have been mentioned in the various panels. I think got a certain support also from what I heard from the industry, and therefore I think it is the path that we have to follow, the way that we have to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastiano. Definitely valid remarks. Jesus, for you, anything to note from this conference today?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe if I may, to broaden a bit the scope. First, thanking you, Dominique, for launching this strategic review. I think that this has been a key issue, and also I need to say that it was very, very demanding. So we have been almost the whole last year working on the strategy, and I would like to take the opportunity to thank all our staff deeply involved in the strategic review, and also staff from the NRAs that have helped us a lot. So this is one thing. For me, more on the personal side, and a strategic review is a kind of soul-searching exercise. And for me, the driving question has been, what if, how would look like the SRB if instead of having a resolution every 4 years on average, we would have had a resolution every 4 months, or for the sake of the argument, every 6 months or every 12 months. So I think that our resolution plans would be different. They would be shorter, but more importantly, focus on what really matters, focus on testing the procedures and making sure that the data that we need for resolution is there. Probably we'll have less theoretical discussions on the preferred resolution strategy and more discussions on what we are going to apply the day of the resolution and what is needed the day of resolution. And with 8, 10 resolutions, probably we'll have a much better idea of how much MREL is needed to deal with a resolution. On our side, we want always more MREL. On the side of the banks, always less MREL. But we'll have at least empirical evidence, real evidence of how much is needed. Not to mention the issue of how much subordinated MREL is needed. I think that could be really useful. Access to the SRF would be well oiled, and I think that would be assumed as a normal tool to fund resolution if needed. But I think that it is not only a reflection for us, it's also for the NRAs. And you mentioned this morning, Dominique, on the national handbooks. I think that we would have very well-oiled national handbooks with clear procedures to launch a market-accelerated process, how to set up or already set up a bridge bank, and an asset protection scheme. So these are the things that we need to move into. So on the practicalities of being able to resolve banks. But I think that these changes are not only for resolution plans. They need to percolate the whole institution for crisis preparedness unit, from legal, from internal procedures, and obviously for human resources in terms of our retention policy, our mobility policy, so everything. So we get very well-motivated staff to deliver on our main mission, which is financial stability. So again, thanks Dominique for launching this strategic review. For me, this is really the opportunity to bridge the gap between what we have, that is a lot, to something that is more ready for a crisis immediately and to protect financial stability. So thank you.
Thank you, Jesus, for these very nice comments on what we want to achieve in the coming years. Pedro, on your side, any reaction on this conference day?
Well, First of all, I think it was a very rich day to start with. We start very well. I think I liked very much the venue. I think it was a big change, and in particular the socializing area. But more important than that, or at the same level of importance, I think we started very well with a key driver for dealing effectively with crisis management, which is also the cooperation with the supervisor. So I think the fact that there was this joint panel and joint exchange with the SSM, between the SSM chair or supervisory board chair and the SRB chair, I think demonstrates that the sort of continuum is key in driving effectively crisis management and safeguarding financial stability, not only in the area that it offers per se a continuum like the interplay with the recovery options, but and of course the further assessment in terms of the situation of the banks, but also in terms of the emerging risks, because for us it's key to understand to which extent we have to also embed further optionality in the banks in the face of these emerging risks. So that is key for us to be also successful in handling a crisis cases. So I think we started very well with that, and I think then we progressed well in terms of the further sort of readiness that we have to achieve ourselves, where the sort of leg of the banks and the progress by banks is essential. I think we ended up with a key takeaway that I would also like to echo is the acknowledgement that resolvability in itself is also an asset for the European banking sector. And it is also a key driver for financial stability in terms of market perception, of riskiness of the banks. So in that regard, this was also acknowledged. And as a sub-asset, I would say that testing and operationalization, so that this investment that also the industry is called to do also makes sense. That not only is the investment on MREL, because this pays off in terms of the loss absorption capacity of banks, but also on the other dimensions of readiness, on resolvability, that this also pays off in terms of market perception and ultimately to ensure financial stability. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. Relevant remarks, definitely. Einar, and anything to add from your side, from your perception?
Thank you, Dominique. I think it's difficult to add. I concur with what's already been said. Let me just say I joined the SRB in 15, and I think indeed now the phase of implementing this new strategy is extremely important. That we're really moving forward as an organization, going to the next level, if I can call it this way, is quite a momentum. So that I think for me is one of the highlights. Secondly, but building a bit on what Pedro said. We are living in a rapidly changing environment, and as a resolution authority, we have an important role to play. But this can only be done effectively in close cooperation with our stakeholders, with supervisors, with national authorities, with others, but especially also with the banking industry. And this, for me, was one of the main elements that was kind of constantly repeated in discussion. Rapidly changing environment requires close cooperation, a lot of challenges ahead of us, but also many opportunities. Thank you.
That's true. If we think about what we've discussed, it's exactly about, let's say, permanent changes. We've seen that risks were evolving, changing, new ones or evolving ones. We've seen that the regulatory landscape is not finished yet. We received a strong message from Mary McGuinness about finishing what is started and not yet finished. And so that means that at the end, this organization needs to be as nimble as necessary, as agile. And we've mentioned flexibility, we've mentioned optionality, but it goes beyond the tools, the toolbox. It means also that we, and you said it, Jesus, very well, our mindset should be sufficiently agile to go from the pre-envisaged schedule, potential source of crisis or potential way of addressing the next crisis to come, to a new area made of new risks, new tools in an evolving landscape with new type of banks, type of risks, type of regulation to implement. And this agility, this way of being able to still, let's say, answering our request for more financial stability and at no taxpayers' money cost, obviously, is exactly at the core of the strategy we have presented you today. That's to say, we want definitely to stick to the real evolving life we have to address under our responsibilities. And this implies a lot, as we've seen this all along the day. So thank you for all your insights, and thank you for attending this meeting. Before we close, let me again thank all the speakers today. Let me thank you, the audience, to be still with us, listening carefully to what we are telling you, online and in person. Thank you for your active participation in the panels. Thank you for your contributions, definitely. I would like to thank also the organization team here, and I think we can make an applause for organizing this. For organizing this day, and to finish the day, what can I offer you apart from let's share some drinks together? So thank you very much. Thank you for attending this meeting, and we hope to connect with you very soon. Thank you. Goodbye.